Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus here with a review of the GN Archer from Gundam 00. Yes, it is time once again to flaunt my mastery of the Gundam canon, all thanks to the colony of HLJ, who dropped this on my doorstep many moons ago. The GN Archer is totally a lady Gundam, so she's clearly the offspring of Gundam Feminocitus, one of the original 13 Gundams, who gave birth to the many other Gundams that we all know and love today. Moving along, this is totally the original GM's petite sister. I love the big googly green visor face, and the aesthetic dichotomy between the tiny frame and enormous jetpack is really cool. However, this figure is almost too small for its materials, often feeling very fragile and not too robust. Which is a bit unfortunate because it is decently posable. The jetpack actually can swing around like this, so if you want it to look like she's flapping her wings or something to fly, then that is your business. Otherwise, there is ball jointage all over the place on the head, on the shoulders. There's double jointed elbows. There's a bicep swivel and whatnot. She's got all the joints you'd hope for. This is a robot Damashii, I believe an earlier one, but nonetheless, still a robot Damashii that is up to par with most of the quality of the line. The main downside is that a lot of these joints can be a little bit fragile, and bits are not on super solid. Nothing really easily breaks, it's just very easy to be messing around and then going like, I'm gonna bend the arm up like this, and well, actually that one's on pretty solidly. Oh wait, never mind. These shoulder pads, by the way, are very easy to accidentally push down farther than they're supposed to go, and it's kind of hard to pull them back up, so be careful with that. But yeah, she's alright, just a little bit finicky. On the bright side, for posing, you can do almost any kind of pose you want, because with this huge jetpack and the enormous boosters on the bottom, she kind of has a built-in quadrupod, or bipod, I suppose, if you don't count her legs, and that means that a lot of her poses can be very easily supported by the jetpack. Which is kind of cool, because it means you don't have to worry too much about her falling over, which is a somewhat common problem with tiny little robots like this. Now, unfortunately, the GN Archer only has this one pair of semi-open hands and only a couple of accessories, one of which is this beam saber, which is the same one that came with the Arios robot Damashii. That's unfortunate because the handle is way too big, and when you stick it in there, it just has to go on that far, and it just looks like it's a little bit oversized. I don't really mind it, but I hear that this totally will not jive with some of the more hardcore Gundamites who, you know, they of course know all about the 1,000-year war with the colony that flew into the sun, and this doesn't really match up all that well. It's just kind of oversized, and it's kind of a bummer that it's a reuse. I've heard this is better to just have on the side as a second beam saber for Arios. You also get a pair of these gun pad things, which go in actually very snugly. I'm happy with these accessories because they stick in easily. The hand grips them tightly. They don't fall out very easily at all, and they don't weigh down any of the joints to the point where things are hard to pose. So that's pretty cool. I like these gun things a lot, even if there's not very much material there to be an actual cannon. Nonetheless, good work, GN Archer. There's also a feature which involves pulling these parts open in a way where it's very easy to accidentally just pull them right off of the boosters, and my understanding is that this is where the GN Archer can store her equipment theoretically. Nothing actually fits in there in a way where you can close it up afterwards, but I guess it's nice that they kept that in. I actually remember the one episode of Do You Remember Gundam when she kept a pineapple salad in there right before Gundam Fokker got shot in the lips. This toy does have a somewhat large gimmick that is kind of the reason, perhaps, for some of the finickier parts or the lack of accessories, and that is a transformation. Much like GN Archer's estranged father, the Gundam Arios, she can transform into a sort of jet thing. So, why don't we take a look at how that works? Oh man, you are totally pointing your gun right at his crotch. I didn't even mean for that to happen. Good lord. What should be a very simple transformation is hampered by two things. First, some of GN Archer's limb joints are a little too easy to pop apart. Second, nothing really locks in place. So even after completing the transformation, the jet mode never really feels solid. This looks a little bit more like a giant booster rocket with a cockpit rather than an individual vehicle, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. If it clipped together a bit more solidly, I'd be all for this mode, but being so rickety, it's only okay. And it really is meant to be connected with its partner piece. And by rickety, I seriously mean, like, okay, aside from the fact that there's no landing gear, and there's these fins on the bottom, which mean that you kind of need a Damashii stand for this to even display all that well, check it out. The waist joint is completely unhindered. The leg joints are completely separate and unhindered. So are the arms. Everything here can move around. So all of the Archer's robot mode base torso joints are all completely free to move, and that means that this, you know, maybe this is supposed to be representative of that one time that, you know, the GN Archer unleashed the Serpentine Death Blossom attack. But that aside, it's kind of a bummer because I would have much preferred if there were some tabs and slots just so this thing could be a solid piece of flying machine. That all said, though, this thing does combine, and it combines with her estranged father, the Arios, in his icicle spear mode. So, when you combine the power of the Tangerine Creamsicle with the power of the Raspberry Triple Creamsicle, you better watch out! You better get ready, son! He's gonna whoosh! But first we gotta do some preparatory work, and this is kind of a bummer here. This tail fin thing, it's on a hinge. Nonetheless, gotta pull it off, and then stick it back on the other way around. I really question why this could not have been engineered into the hinge, and it is also a bummer to try to plug in upside down. But there you go, now it's plugged in, looking kind of silly. Step 2, you gotta take this thing that comes with the GN Archer, and plug it onto this dude's folded up feet, which is actually quite solid once you get it in place. It kind of just slots in like thusly. And now that that's all put together, the clip on the end of the connector piece needs to be plugged around GN Archer's waist, and a pair of tabs need to be plugged into slots around the red cockpit piece that's around the robot mode head. Once you've done that, you have got the Arios Archer! It's very cool to look at. It's got real sleek lines, and because on the underside you now have not only those two white things, but this enormous removable orange tab, you totally cannot set this thing down on your desk. Or you can, but then that piece will just come off. So let's just leave that off for now for the sake of leaving this in a nice viewable position. You know what? I do really like the combination. Their lines match up so well. They are clearly made to plug together, and despite the need for a stand, I actually quite enjoy the aesthetic of the Arios Archer Combined Vehicle mode. The colors are complementary, the whites all match up. The only weird thing is if you look at it from the underside, because it looks like a pair of little robot people have been stuck together and are crying out for help. The only downside is that, much like the problems with the jet mode on the GN Archer, this thing has even more problems, as you get all of her rickety joints and you get all of Arios's rickety waist joint action. He does tab together a whole lot better from the torso up. But yeah, it's a little bit unwieldy. It's very easy for this thing to just start massaging itself out of place like this. But otherwise, I kind of dig it. And there is a trick to actually get Damashii stages to work with this. It's in the instructions, but you need like a couple Damashii stages. You gotta clip them onto the right parts, and I am far too lazy. So I'll just let you know now that this thing is big, cool, and totally floppy. But don't let that deter you. If you got the right kind of display setup, then this thing will look pretty neat on your shelf. Especially if you like the Arios Archer. I mean, this combination of father and daughter, it's really just touching. It reminds me of that one time when GN Archer was down at Robot Prom, and her father had to come in to defend her honor.
Well, look at this stinkhole. Look at this lowbrow event you and me have found ourselves in attendance for. I don't know about you, baby, but I think there are some real scumbags in this joint. Dishonorables. Ain't gentlemen. Not like me, baby. I'm a big-time A1 gentlemanly piece of robot chisel. Ha! Let me do you a favor. Come on outside with me and split this kiddie pool. I got a European passion couch, all cultured and deep and artistic. Ain't nobody as deep as me, baby. I know a good chassis when I see one, and you are a grade A slice of vanilla strawberry robot cream. Mm-hmm. Well, I bet I could... Huh? What can I do for you, little man? Ha! Look at this choker, baby. He's a creamsicle. A big old beanpole orange and milk sop, skinny puddle-pushing peasant. Looking to stand in the big leagues as a small man. A farm boy and a burning knuckle of the father's disapproval. Strike him with the Pegasus kick of the angered swan! Shin Gun Left my card on the table. You just call if you need a real man to paint your house or your garden.
GN Archer is a great companion piece to robot Damashii Arios. If you've got one, definitely look into getting the other. However, Archer is a little weak as a standalone release, and if you see her for over $20, you will probably be quite disappointed. Check for sales on this one. With a healthy discount, she goes from disappointingly diminutive to a cool and quirky female Gundam. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, Gundam aficionado and expert. I hope I've enlightened you all a little bit today, and maybe taught you a thing or two about Gundam if you weren't well versed in the fiction. Anyway, I've got to go catch the newest episode of Gundam Unicron. I love that Universal Century stuff. It's great when they got all the Zakus and the balls when they're all fighting each other. I can't wait to get me a brand new Ba Woo, but I'll see how I feel after watching the newest episode over on Adult Toonami. Gotta love Teletoon, baby. Anyway, G-Fans, out!